Hey, what's up? Yo, I rushed into this quickly. There's a story breaking over here. Chad is not even ready. But let me fix this. Let me get this right. Okay, there. Let me get this right. Hold up. Hold up. Where's the chat? Ducks. Chat? You there? Yeah. Chat, you there? So, let's tuck all of this work behind the scenes there. Where's the video? Yo, somebody has joined me. There's one watching. Let's see the YouTube history right quick. Ah.
All right, thank you so much for availing yourself here.
Hey, what's up? Start like this. Hey, what's up? Back at you with another video. Breaking news right here. Mkhwanazi is exposing some politicians. One of them being Senso Mchunu, who is said to be the Minister of Police. Let's jump in.
On a Sunday morning, I hope you're all feeling good after the whole events that happened in Durban yesterday. You did not enjoy yourself too much, so you are still to focus today. Let me salute my fellow colleagues, the generals and the district commissioners that are assisting me in fighting crime in this province together with my deputies, both from the policing side as well as the investigation. I'm here this morning in order to speak to you about the policing issues that are happening in KZN as well as in the Republic of South Africa. So I'm presenting this briefing to the citizens of this province and by extension the inhabitants of the Republic of South Africa, specifically about the work of the political killings task team. It's been spoken about a lot, I'm sure you know that. Let me give a bit of a background about this political killings task team. In 2018, the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Ramaphosa, established the Interministerial Committee, which we refer to as IMC, which consists of the Ministers of Police, the Minister of State Security, the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, and Correctional Development. These ministers were given a task by the President to ensure that they deal with matters of security nature that affect political leadership in this province. You will recall that the minister had visited the family of the late Nhlanha Mchunu in places like in Pietermaritzburg in May 2018. It was then where this IMC was established by the President. So it is a committee of ministers, not a police directed operation, but a committee that involved different departments. The IMC at the time met and listened to the investigation report that was presented, the so-called political task team that was established before them. And the observation, amongst others, was that the task team was working in silos. It was compromised and that it did not have any investigation as well as prosecutorial plan or strategy. As a result, there was a little or no progress in the investigation and prosecution of these cases. A decision was therefore taken by the IMC to establish a national integrated multidisciplinary task team, which consists of the South African Police Service, the National Prosecuting Authority, NPA, supported by both state security as well as correctional services, which commenced its work in July of 2018 to implement the now tried and tested analysis-led and prosecution-driven investigation strategy. As a result of the excellent performance, the political killings task team has been assigned in another presidential intervention project I can name a few: the killing of the traditional leaders in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, as well as the murders that happened in the University of Fort Hare in the Eastern Cape.
So, if you're not sure about South African politics and you sleep sometime, we've asked Perplexity, who is Senso Mchunu? Senso Mchunu is a South African politician who, as of July 2025, serves as the country's Minister of Police. He was appointed to the position on 3rd of July 2024, following his tenure as Minister of Water and Sanitation. So this guy has nothing copy about him. He's just a politician, from water and sanitation to the police, serving August 2021 to June 2024, and Minister of Public Services and Administration in another place, May 2019 to 2021. Mkhwanazi is a senior member of the African National Congress, ANC, and has held numerous leadership roles within the party and government. Born on the 21st of April 1958 in Hlabisa, KwaZulu-Natal, he began his professional life as a school teacher before entering politics full-time in the early 1990s. He was the inaugural provincial secretary of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal after 1994 and was elected to the provincial legislature in 1997. He later served as premier of KwaZulu-Natal from August 2013 to May 2016. Mkhwanazi holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Education and International Relations from the University of Zululand and the University of South Africa. He's married to Thembeka Mkhwanazi and has 5 children. Throughout his political career, Mkhwanazi has been recognized for his rise from teaching to high-level government positions, including his recent leadership in addressing violent crime and gang violence in South Africa. Woo! Brother AP, for real. What a dope name. Glad you could join me. Nah? Greetings to you and whoever else will be in the chat. Let's go back to the video. It's hard.
Since the establishment of this political killings task team in July 2018, the team has been investigating a total of 612 case dockets. These case dockets include murders, attempted murders, intimidation,
to you, Brother AP?
Conspiracy to commit murders, and other cases. A total of 436 suspects were arrested and charged. 156 firearms were recovered, of which 55 of them were linked directly with ballistically through forensic testing to the political related cases. An additional 35 suspects who are members of the South African Police Service were arrested. The notable one is the one who's now in prison, who's been working with the parliamentarian who was involved in the murder, about the murder of one Cindy Somakak. We're going to talk about that later. A total of 128 accused were found guilty on 106 cases. 29 accused were sentenced to life in prison. 40 accused were sentenced between 10 to 35 years. 25 accused were sentenced between 1 to 9 years. 23 accused were sentenced between 3 to 12 months. And there's quite a lot of awaiting trial prisoners that are going to be finalized in a few weeks. So a total of sentences that is total number of years that has been given, if I add all of them, amounts to about 1,801 years of imprisonment. This is the work done by the team since 2018 to date that have led into the successful prosecution because of this integration working between the SAPS and the prosecution. On the 26th of March 2025, this year, a total of 121 case dockets that were under investigation were taken away from the task team as directed by a Deputy National Commissioner Crime Detection, a Lieutenant General Sibia, who was acting on the instruction of the Minister of Police to disband the team. This was done without the authority of the National Commissioner, nor I, as a Provincial Commissioner, was never informed.
Dockets were taken from them without him being consulted and somebody else senior who should be consulted.
These case dockets have since March been sitting at the head office ever since without any investigation work done on them.
Wow.
5 of these dockets had already instruction to arrest perpetrators. But nothing has been done because a Lieutenant General Sibia, being instructed by the Minister of Welfare, executing instruction of the Minister, withdrew all these dockets and they are sitting in archive in his office in Pretoria.
Wow.
God knows why.
Yeah, why?
Therefore, only a total of 112 dockets which are still in court, of which 54 of them are political related, and others will include parallel ad hoc, as well as the dockets that are involving the incident at Fort Hare University, and 5 of them are traditional leadership, are still with the team at this present moment. In the year, a request was received from how. In the year
2024,
a request was received from Gauteng Organized Crime Investigating Unit to assist with the investigation to dismantle the organized crime syndicate that was operating in Gauteng, that was controlled in Gauteng but operating in the rest of the country and the neighboring countries. I, as a provincial commissioner, took a decision to deploy 10 members from this political killings task team to go and support this organized crime unit in Gauteng. I can tell South Africans that this decision is for the disbandment letter of this team, because they overstepped
the
mandate letter. Decision
was the cause
for the disbandment letter of this team.
Okay.
Because they overstepped their mandate of only focusing in KZN. They went to support Gauteng organized crime unit with the dismantling of a criminal syndicate. And I can confirm before the South Africans today that the investigation which these members were involved with in Gauteng has unmasked the syndicate. And this syndicate involves, amongst others, politicians who are currently serving in Parliament.
Wow.
The law enforcement officers include the members of the South African Police Service, the Metro Police, and Correctional Services.
Wow.
They include prosecutors in Gauteng province, the judiciary. And all these are controlled by the drug cartel, as well as business people in the province of Gauteng. This act, of course, undermines the criminal justice system in this country. Mr. Brown Mkhwanazi.
Interesting that he should mention drug dealers, etc. Ne? Because Kolani from Sizoktola, the shorter chubby guy, the original host of the show, he spoke about how in Durban, in KZN, as soon as the crew was seen to be operating, they were already being blocked off by police. It's these kind of things.
Sends a WhatsApp message to undermines the criminal justice system in this country. Mr. Brown Mkhwanazi sends a WhatsApp message to myself, Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, regarding the allegation on the defeating the end of justice matters which were widely publicized, which involves an incident that happened at the correctional service at Mpangeni in KwaZulu-Natal. Mr. Brown sends this message in September last year, long before the news came out in public about the end that happened at Mpangeni. He sends this message. In this message that he sends to the provincial commissioner, he attaches a police letter and he attaches a copy of the occurrence book, a register that is used at the police station that's supposed to only be accessed by police officers. But Mr. Brown, who's not a police officer, attaches those in his message and he sends it to the provincial commission. His word says is a plot to charge him.
Oh!
Mr. Brown Mkhwanazi also sends a screenshot of a presentation that was made on the 30th of September 2024, a presentation that was titled 2024-2025 Division Crime Intelligence Policies.
Oh!
He sends this to myself, Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, as a provincial commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal. Surely this must have been a classified information where crime intelligence are presenting their policies. But this man has access to that, and it's not a policeman. When asked to share the copy of this presentation through that WhatsApp communication, he responded by saying, General Khan will brief you next week. There's only one General Khan in the South African Police Service, so is one General, Lieutenant General SB in the South African Police Service. I've never heard of any other Lieutenant Generals in any other way in the security cluster in the country with the very same name, so I assume it's that I know very well. He further wrote on the very same WhatsApp message. He said that, I quote, the minister is briefed. He has just arrived in Lusikisiki, end quote. You will recall, colleagues, that we had an incident at Sikisiki, a mass murder that happened. And the Minister of Police had gone visiting the families and that crime scene. So after this communication, the Provincial Commissioner called the Chief of Staff, Mr. Nkabinde, the Chief of Staff of the Minister of Police, and asked the Chief of Staff, who is this Bran Mkhwanazi? This Bran Mkhwanazi seems to be traveling with the Minister to Sikisiki. Who is he? Because I've never heard of him. The response from the Chief of Staff was that Mr. Bran Mkhwanazi is an associate of the Minister.
An associate?
But he's not employed in the department.
Not employed.
That's when I got the confirmation about Mr. Bran Mkhwanazi. And I asked the Chief of Staff to send the phone number of this Bran Mkhwanazi, of which he did.
Okay.
It is that number that made me to confirm that indeed the person who's sending me WhatsApp messages is the same person that is called Bran Mkhwanazi. And is from Northwest.
Oh!
On the 5th of March 2025, the South African Police appeared before the Portfolio Committee in Parliament. A presentation was made to this Portfolio Committee by the Provincial Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal, which included the allegations of an associate of the Minister of Police, Mr. Bran Mkhwanazi. The Minister denied on record. Go and Google a visual presentation to the Portfolio Committee on 5th of March this year, towards the end of that briefing, where the Minister of Police responded and he said he does not know this Mr. Bran Mkhwanazi. He said that in Parliament. However, the Minister confirmed that he knows this Mr. Bran Mkhwanazi during the telephone conversation that he had, which was posted on X under the handler at Load Care. This was on the 30th of March, where he confirmed that this was his comrade from Northwest. A conversation between the Minister and that lady is available. You can go on X and find it on the 30th. If it's been removed from that account, as we finish this briefing, I'll share that with you.
Okay.
The evidence has been found in the cell phone of Mr. Vusimus, also known as Cat Matala, which shows the communication between Mr. Bran Mkhwanazi and the Minister of Police, Mr. Senso Mchunu. As I said, this was the beginning of the closure of the political task team. I'll try to outline some sequence of events. I had said the team left for Gauteng to go and assist organized crime in Gauteng. There was a shooting incident that had occurred in April 2024, where Mr. Swart, a QTech employee, was fatally shot while entering the company premises. QTech has been a long-standing service provider to Transnet. Shortly after the incident, 3 suspects, including a warrant officer, a South African Police Service warrant officer, a detective Tao Pule, were arrested in Johannesburg. During the arrest, weapons that were used in this murder, which was an AK-47 and a pistol, along with cell phones, were confiscated. I must applaud the team in Gauteng who had effected this arrest before the arrival of the team in KZN. It is the challenges that this investigating team of Gauteng encountered that led into the invitation to the KwaZulu-Natal police to go and assist. The KwaZulu-Natal Political Killings Task Team arrival, they took these weapons and they went and tested them. So they conducted a ballistic test in order to check whether these farms were linked with that murder and many other murders perhaps that will have occurred in the country. Maybe let me pause on that one and come back into what had happened prior to us receiving the results from the task team, ballistic test result. On the 6th of December 2024, the task team visited the premises of the 2 of the high-profile syndicate, of which one, Mr. Katiso Molefe, was arrested for the murder of Mr. Swart of QTech. During that arrest, an unusual activities were observed whilst the team were busy with the operation. These activities included a dispatching of members of the South African Police Service under the command of a senior manager at the head office to go and interrupt the operation that was unfolding. Fortunately, when they arrived there, the members realized that it is indeed a police operation, so they allowed the members to carry out their operations without disturbance. On the 30th of December 2024, the ballistic expert issued a ballistic report which linked these firearms not only with the murder of Mr. Swart, but these firearms were linked with a number of high-profile cases. And these cases include very high-profile South African artists that were murdered. which occurred dating back as far as 2021.
Artists, not just one.
I'm not going to mention them, but we have them on record. On the 31st of December 2024, the Minister of Police, Mr. Senso Mchunu, issues a letter to disband the political killings task team and to suspend the filling of vacancies within CAM intelligence.
Disband.
In January, February, and April this year,
Don't hire.
the Deputy National Commissioner Anti-Detection, Lieutenant General Sibia, issued written instructions withdrawing all these cases from the task team to his office. On the 14th of May this year, 2025, the task team arrested Vusi Muzi, who is also known as Cat Nhlanha, for an attempted murder ×3. I must highlight that this Mr. Vusi Muzi Cat Nhlanha is an individual who was awarded a police contract of over 360 million rand in 2024.
Wow.
An analysis was conducted on
A police contractor got arrested for committing crime. Woo.
electronic communication of this arrested person. This analysis reveals communication between the arrested Vusi Muzi Cat Nhlanha, Mr. Mkhwanazi, an associate of the Minister of Police, as well as Minister of Police Senso. On the 1st of January, the letter issued on the 1st of January 2025, Mr. Mkhwanazi sends a WhatsApp to Vusi Muzi Cat Nhlanha, and it reads as follows, I quote, "I have arranged a meeting for Sibia and the Minister. They must have a solution." And he follows another message. "The task team that came to your house and harassed you have been dissolved.
Whoa.
They got the letter on Monday. As we speak, they are bringing all docket to Sibia."
Wow.
This letter issued on the 31st of December 2024. This communication is on the very next day, 1st of January 2025, where it says the dockets have been called and have been sent to Sibia. He has known the dockets only were sent to Sibia in March this year. Further analysis of the text indicates that Vusi Muzi Cat Nhlanha is financially supporting the Minister of Police and the Mkhwanazi's political endeavors. This is supported by the evidence of authorization and proof of payments of gas for general traveling costs and the Ghana dinner in Cape Town. It was done in 2025.
Oh, yes.
The proof of payment, we have it, as I said, we're going to share with you, where Mr. Nhlanha is saying the proof of payment with Mr. Mkhwanazi. On the 2nd of January 2025, at about 5:10 in the morning, Vusi Muzi Cat Nhlanha receives a copy of the letter of the disbandment of the political killings task team from Mr. Mkhwanazi, who is received with the Minister of Police. According to remind you that this is the very same Mkhwanazi that the Minister of Police denied Parliament and later confirmed to be his comrade and not involved with police matters, but he's sending this communication.
Flip-flop.
That's what we discovered during investigation.
Yeah.
On the 14th of January 2025, Mr. Brown communicates with Mr. Vusi Cat Nhlanha as follows, I quote, "Sure, don't forget to work on your invoices." On the 15th of January, Mr. Vusi Cat Nhlanha responds with a screenshot of an invoice that is submitted to the African Police Service, which I guess was due for payment on his contract. On the 26th of January 2025,
They're talking about money and crime and police intelligence.
Mr. Brown sent a message to the Minister of Police Senso as follows, I quote, "The guy of the funding, bracket 20, is also in drawback from shooting. He is the one I said has a 3 billion contract with SAPS." Close quote.
3 billion, who's that?
Same contract, another message. "I am also meeting with the DNC and the COS today." Now, in the application, the DNC, the South African Police Service, is referred to as the Deputy National Commissioner, and the COS will be in this regard the Chief of Staff. Since I'm also meeting with the DNC and Chief of Staff today in Durban for finalization of Khumalo and Mkhwanazi's matter. Close quote. Another message says, "DNC is waiting for Chief of Staff here. This is very significant." Close quote. This is started from the communication of the arrested person. So we have a question. Is there a theory of police intelligence officers involving the Minister of Police in this country? On the 1st of December, we are seeing Mr. Mkhwanazi sending a message to the Minister of Police, Minister, and going to get the case number and the judge review. Now we got something proving in the court. This is a matter now which either Sibia or the Minister can charge Khumalo and apply all 9 of the regulations of South African Police Service. It took the constitutional court to release a man who was sentenced to life imprisonment, no force Schedule 4 conviction. Imagine from the sense of after years of democracy, having this kind of policing. The good thing now is that these are not allegations, but a court judgment. This is started from a conversation that Mr. Mkhwanazi sent to the Minister of Police. On the 10th of May this year, the contract of Vusi Muzi Cat Nhlanha was cancelled by the National Commission of the South African Police Service. On the 14th of May this year, Vusi Muzi Cat Nhlanha sent a message to Mkhwanazi, which reads, I quote, "Morning. Just to let you know that my contract was cancelled yesterday, and I see you've been ignoring me and promising me things that never happened.
Wow.
Luckily, of every conversation, just in case something like this might happen.
What?
I'm taking all this to media and some to court on Friday when I do the interdict."
Wait, so somebody's fighting for their money here. Let's back up.
Just in case something like this might happen. I'm taking all this to media and some to court on Friday when I do the interdict.
Wow.
Close quote. On the 30th of May 2025, the Investigative Directorate Against Corruption, which is referred to as IDEC, requests the exhibits from the cell phone of Vusi Muzi Cat Nhlanha from the political killings task team, and they download the content of the cell phone. IDEC is a unit that was established to deal with corruptions in the country. We don't know what is it that we're investigating for them to come and ask for these cell phone downloads. On the 25th of May, on the 30th of May, I beg your pardon. On the 25th of June this year, the project coordinator of the political killings task team is arrested by IDEC. A dramatic arrest. A dramatic arrest.
How so?
On the 26th of June 2025, the accused, Katiso KT Molefe, who was arrested by the very same task team, was granted bail. Guess that one went under the radar. The work of the organized crime in Gauteng, supported by the political killings task team, has indeed been compromised. The disbandment of the political killings task team was influenced by the sterling work that they performed in Gauteng to uncover the criminal syndicate, which involves some members of the criminal justice system operating in Gauteng province, and not because of what I presented earlier, which was the work they did in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Their demise was as a result of them assisting Gauteng to uncover the criminal syndicate. Despite all these challenges, we acknowledge and appreciate the resilience of the members of the political killings task team. The political killings task team remains operational, albeit attempt to disrupt its work to protect and serve the inhabitants of the Republic, as enshrined in the Constitution under Section 205, Subsection 3 of the Constitution of the Republic. The political killings task team remains operational. Therefore, we have embarked on the process of registering a criminal investigation in order to deal with this infiltration and control of the criminal justice system by the organized crime. We in KZN know that a member of crime intelligence or members of crime intelligence released classified documents and handed them over to a member of parliament. That includes vetting documents, as well as covert properties. We all know in the country that the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence is the one that must supervise the operations of a secret fund account, not only for the South African Police Service, but all the intelligence agencies in the country. That the members of crime intelligence gave these documents to a member of parliament, and the member of parliament registered a criminal case in Gauteng where he was alleging that some of the officials within crime intelligence were issued fraudulent vetting clearance certificates. After opening the case, he sends a communication to the Minister of Police. He asks the Minister of Police to take these dockets and assign them to someone else. The Minister of Police Chief of Staff, Mr. Nkabinde, wrote a letter to the head of the NPA newly established unit, which is referred to as IDAC, Investigating Directorate Against Corruption, to investigate these cases. These are allegations of a manipulation of a vetting process, not a state capture, not corruption. But IDAC receives this communication from the Minister of Police to take these dockets, and IDAC does exactly that. They go and take these dockets and they investigate them. I wonder whether is this what the unit IDAC was established for?
No.
The Minister of Police invited and facilitated the peace talk between myself, the Provincial Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal, and the Deputy National Commissioner, Lieutenant General Sbiya, in his office, in his house, State House, official residence in Pretoria. The purpose of the invitation was to try and create peace between myself and the Deputy National Commissioner. It was unprecedented. I've never seen in my life. The National Commissioner was present, but he just kept quiet because it was not his meeting. The Minister of Police felt that he must make me and General Sbiya to find peace. Surely, there can never be peace between the criminal and the police officers.
Ooh.
As we speak, the South African Police Service, KwaZulu-Natal, still does not have a leader within crime intelligence because of the letter where the minister suspended the filling of vacancies at crime intelligence, which is dated the 31st of December. So to date, we don't have a command of crime intelligence in this province. We are trying to figure out on our own how to infiltrate syndicates because the minister decided these posts must not be filled. Crime intelligence at the national level has no commander as we speak. And we must thank the magistrate who made a ruling that went beyond what the charge sheet against the accused is about, which the members were charged on HR-related matters that dealt with filling of vacancies. The magistrate directed that these members must never enter any premises of crime intelligence in the country. So which means all the work of crime intelligence had to come to a halt. Interesting for us is that another magistrate who then had the matter of the second accused on that case, who had remained in custody last week, did not issue the same condition. He understood that the judiciary cannot get involved in determining whether people must go back to work or not. It is an employer that must make the decision.
All right.
But I must just indicate to South Africans that Mr. Padayache, who appeared in court on the day when these police officers were arrested, whom the magistrate referred to as an investigating officer, is a former member of crime intelligence himself. He retired from the police and he went to join this new unit, IDEC. He is now referred to as a lead investigator with no qualification, no investigative experience at all. But he is a person whom the magistrate directs that if anything is wanted at crime intelligence, must go via him. So he gives him a carte blanche to access anything at crime intelligence on behalf of the members that are employed to work there. The vetting section within crime intelligence has more powers than any other units within that space, because they can scrutinize everything about the applicant who's applying for security clearance. And they can manipulate that security clearance process for their own benefit. So I stand here understanding, as leading this province of KwaZulu-Natal, that fighting organized crime remains a priority as directed by government. The National Commissioner remains my commander, and the commander of all of us as we wear this uniform. And we must protect this badge and the police commissioner. I call on all men and women in law enforcement, the South African Police Service and Metro Police to stand up and protect our people. Yes, sometimes law can stand on the way to achieve justice. We must choose justice. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Wow. Ooh. So, that is the press briefing, no? And there's a reaction here. We have
this conversation that was sparked by that extraordinary briefing by the police commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Still have SABC News political editor Mkhwanazi, but in a short while I'll also bring in Professor Bheki Mngomezulu as well as Chad Thomas of IRS Forensic Investigations. Mzwai, let me just quickly touch with you on the issue of timing. Everyone, almost all the voices we've heard from this morning, the political voices are saying that we need to hear from the president as soon as possible. This is an issue that has implications for national security, the stability within police, law enforcement and the likes. The timing though, it's a week, we are in mourning as we just said now with the passing on of the former deputy president, but also the president is out of the country.
Well, there does appear to be quite a lot at play here. So clearly, if there are certain things that are happening in the background that you and I may not necessarily be privy to, so you'll not necessarily be alive to the fact that you have to time certain things. So once you feel for you at that particular moment, it's time you speak, you'll certainly go out and speak regardless of what else is happening.
Also, depending what other processes are playing themselves out in the background that may not necessarily be reflected in the official statement.
Absolutely, that's exactly. In fact, that's what I was saying. I mean, if you listened to Mkhwanazi talking about the arrest of Khumalo, you sometimes, I mean, you can't not think, is there something coming on your way? Of course, we don't know. But clearly, as we have said, the reason why people are saying we need to hear from the president, we need to hear from the minister, because we need to understand why would a provincial commissioner go as far as to say these explosive
a commissioner who's actually quite popular, who's riding the tide of popularity at the moment.
Exactly.
Stake it all. Yes. What's really going on?
What's really going on? And remember, he did not even confine himself to only the province. He also went as far as to indicate what is happening at national, what is happening even in Gauteng. So how have we been working together? So what is it that is forcing him? So that is why we are saying the leadership of the police. In fact, I would also want to hear from the National Commissioner himself. What is it? Because he says he has passed these things on to you. So have you passed them on to the minister and the president?
All right, let's bring in Professor Bheki Mngomezulu just for some analysis of this, and of course we'll bring in Chad Thomas in a moment. Prof. Mngomezulu, good afternoon. What an extraordinary turn of events that we've had in the last 2.5 hours or so. What is the upshot for you from what we heard from the Provincial Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and its political implications?
Good afternoon, Professor, and good afternoon to your viewers. Honestly speaking, I'm not necessarily shocked by his pronouncements by General Mkhwanazi. Coincidentally, a couple of months ago, I wrote about the concerns of disbanding this team on the eve of the local government election. Of course, you would know that I'm not privy to any information from the police officers or from the security cluster for that matter. I was just looking at this issue from a distance, saying that if you analyze the situation from a distance, it doesn't make sense why you would close the task team when you know that political killings rise on the eve of an election. That is what I had in mind. And then now you have Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi providing us more information to that effect. Of course, it depends on how you define an allegation. Some will define an allegation as a fact that has not been proven yet. Others will define an allegation as something that has not been tested in law. However you define it, the problem here is that we have a police force which is part of a security cluster that is not singing in unison. And that is a recipe for disaster for the state of the country. So the issues that you raise are issues that are concerning, more especially because there are individuals who are mentioned who are not necessarily in the police force, the likes of Brown Mkhwanazi, the likes of Kat, and so basically these are the people who are not necessarily in the police force, but then they seem to be more visible than the police officer. The question is why. And then lastly, this also tarnishes the image of the police minister, that is Senso Mchunu. Of course, these allegations are yet to be tested, but the fact that you have Mkhwanazi reading from excerpts from either WhatsApp messages or any other documents means that there is something to it that we cannot ignore. But then, of course, wait and hear what the other side is saying on the issue. But yes, indeed, these issues are concerned.
Yeah. Prof. Mkhwanazi, I'll ask you to hold on for a moment. I want to bring in Chad Thomas in a moment, but just reflecting on some of what you were saying about some of the individuals that have been named. There's this Vusumuzi Kat Matala that was mentioned in that briefing by the Police Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal, talking about communications that were retrieved from a device that was seized by the police, and talking about WhatsApp messages, and one of them saying, and I quote here, it said, according to General Mkhwanazi, Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, it was sent on the 1st of January this year. Brown Mkhwanazi sending that WhatsApp to Vusi Kat Matala and saying, quote unquote, the task team that came to your house and harassed you have been dissolved.
The dockets are coming to me, not to me, to the other person's office.
Got the letter on Monday as we speak. They are bringing all dockets to Sibiya. So that's part of that, what Prof. Mkhwanazi is alluding to there. Chad Thomas, let me bring you into this. You follow what happens within crime fighting policing quite closely. And just recently we were talking about the arrest of Dumisani Khumalo, the head of crime intelligence, and that seemed to be the focus of the story. Only for this afternoon for us to hear that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, and these concerns are being brought to the fore by the police commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal. Are you able to make heads or tails of everything that we've heard this afternoon?
Good afternoon to you and the viewers, as well as the other members of this panel. Look, this is a reckoning that has needed to happen within the South African police services. We've been speaking for years and years and years about the different issues within the policing structures, yet nobody has stood up behind a podium and actually called out certain things the way in which Mkhwanazi did today. The story around Vusi Kat Matala is exceptionally interesting. He's a rogue. He's been known to be involved in the underworld for many years now, running a crew called Boko Haram out of Mamelodi, being involved in all kinds of different crimes. When he was awarded the police wellness tender in June of last year, it came as a complete and utter shock to everybody that somebody with his background could be awarded such an important contract. The people that have been investigating murder for hire in Gauteng, a dedicated small team of crime intelligence members protected by the Special Task Force, have been able to, through their arrest, link so many people to this conspiracy, including Vusi Kat Matala and other senior members. And credit must be given to those members because they've uncovered linkages to very senior members, in fact, their very own bosses within crime intelligence. So it just shows that within our police ranks, there are still members committed to serving and understanding what it means to wear that badge. I think Mkhwanazi has done us a good turn. Whether what he says turns out to be correct, somewhat correct or incorrect, at this point is irrelevant. He started the conversation. He's brought this war directly to the people. You can see by the way he speaks, you can see by the way he's dressed, that this is a war that he's brought directly to them. And he's saying we need to fight for the very fibre of the police force. Yeah. We hope that his intentions are good. And we hope that this is the reckoning we as the citizens of this country have been waiting for so many years. Yeah,
Chad, before I go to Ongama Mtimka, who has now joined this conversation, let me just take the point a bit further with you around what we heard this afternoon, earlier on in the day, from Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, a number of names being mentioned. And you just wonder what the response and the pushback will be. And I do suspect, and Mzwandile Mbeche and I have been talking to some length about a kind of restructuring, repositioning, rearrangement of the decks within SAPS, that we may see narratives that may seem to suggest that all of this may be linked to this. Not forgetting that Mkhwanazi himself was not until, just not long ago mentioned in connection with some irregularity or another relating to a senior correctional services official. Could there be more at play? Things to do with the imminent, the now vacant position of head of the Hawks and any other rearranging of the decks as far as the structures of the SAPS go?
Oh, most definitely. That's a certainty. Remember, when Mkhwanazi was head, or acting head rather, of the South African Police Services when he was appointed back in 2012, he was the first to, at that point, suspend General Mkhwanazi from crime intelligence, who had been involved in a whole array of serious crimes, for which he's been found guilty on some, and in others he's still on trial for. So Mkhwanazi is coming forward as somebody who has a history of not being shy to take on those that he believes may have corrupted the service at any point. Yes, that story that came out with him and the so-called correctional services official and the narcotics, it may have been disinformation, it may need to be investigated further, but it just shows what's happening in the background, how people are used to spin, and how even in the private sector, there are certain bad actors being used to prop up those that are within the state law enforcement to keep those positions, to perhaps enable and even involve certain criminals in South Africa.
All right, let me bring in Ogamba. I do have Nhlanha contact from the UDM Deputy President, but before I get to him, Ogamba, let me give you an opportunity at this point. From everything we've heard, it's a story with many moving pieces, and I can tell you now, not many of us would have followed his allegations to the levels at which we've had to quickly catch up in the last 2 hours or so. Having heard that whirlwind of allegations that came through earlier on, what's your overall sense? What's at play here?
Plus, the matters about which the general spoke infuriating, in the sense that he's talking about how measures to deal with high-level crime, and I dare say national security issues, are being frustrated allegedly by those higher.
Ayo Lee, shout out to you for bringing up Fadiel Adams. I've seen this brother in Parliament. He's a colored, right, nationalist who is standing up for colored people like Gayton McKenzie, representing that minority, as you might call them. And so, yeah, nice one. Let's read.
So as to act immediately, because there's a lot of people here, he thinks that the general pointed to warrant summary dismissal of the minister and people involved allegedly. He would not be taking consideration. In fact, I think he would be treating for contempt. What we're seeing here is a deep level of national security threat, internal, which needs to be acted on immediately. I think I note to us that the general is taking this action, and I say it is well advised, because I think that he's probably feeling a counter attack for him to end his strike against him. And he didn't even leave it for us to interpret. He said it himself that the reason why he had always been on the combative arm of the police service has always been his dislike for criminals and his desire to deal with criminals head on. So I think even this media brief was meant to take the war to the political network and its organized criminal syndicate that is policing efforts in the country. Just come back to you in a moment. I want to bring in the Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. And what's your understanding of what's at play here? Why would a police officer at that level, a provincial commissioner, who, as I say, is riding the tide at least of public popularity at least, but has a lot to lose, and we all understand that he probably, if not probably, he understands, command and control, the lines of accountability. Why would he take such an extraordinary step that clearly is being criticized in some quarters for not following the proper channels? What do you believe is really at play that emboldened him and made him think that this is the step to take, whatever the consequence?
Obviously, they are issues of power, and thank you very much. I'm sure there are internal struggles that want to do the frustration that Dr. Tinka is referring to. Perhaps they are really trying to do their job at that level with a different task teams as a constitution. So when you look at the amount of work we're trying to do and the definition that they've done, the number of cases that they were dealing with, some which did not have progress, it could be a genuine attempt, a genuine hope, how to say, part of the problem, the reason why it's absolutely ineffective in fighting crime, especially about crime in the country, and especially when it comes to dealing with syndicate that use sophisticated means that have criminal networks that even go into is that you need those that need outside to deal with that. But it is clear from where you're sitting that they're not singing from the same keyboard at the top.
And acting with people that are acting in bad faith. Further than that, the idea that there's been delays in appointments which directly link to this attempt to, capture law enforcement agencies. If the president is not infuriated by this, so as to act immediately, because there's a lot of prima facie,
some officials within government that seem to indicate at least that facilitating the work of some of the criminal syndicates and so on. Now, when it goes as high as the minister, and probably you're trying to do the whistle blowing internally, and you're not being, you're not paying attention or paid attention to, you've used other means to try and get your message out there. Often what happens is that when crime continues to escalate in the country, despite the efforts of some of the committed policemen and women in the country, they are scapegoated for things without us understanding the internal power dynamics and the frustrations that they go through on a daily basis. So it's clear. They are not. They don't see eye to eye internally in SAPS.
Before I bring back Professor Mngomezulu, let me stick with you, Ngabayomzi. What should be the immediate reaction, a reaction and response from those mentioned and implicated, the Minister of Police, as well as the President, to this news?
Firstly, from our view as a party, we believe that the President should actually act swiftly and conduct some preliminary investigation, which would actually give him all the facts he requires to be able to take some decision about this issue. Whether he wants to do further investigation, a proper inquiry, that will be determined by that preliminary investigation. But if I were the Minister of Police, I would actually step aside. But if he believes in his innocence, if he believes the allegations are nonsense, step aside, allow the process to unfold, allow those preliminary investigations to take place so that he doesn't end up having to force the President's hand to remove it. But ultimately, when you consider how weighty these allegations are, the President will have to take a difficult decision of the Minister investigating and trying to find out what is happening. You can't have a situation where you look into these allegations while the Minister is still there. Obviously, you would probably be able to frustrate the process and undermine the investigation. So the President has to act at some point, and Parliament, in fact, the portfolio committee on SAPS has to summon SAPS and get them to come and explain these allegations, including Provincial Commissioner Mkhwanazi on this issue, so that Parliament as well is able to set up its own investigative processes following the portfolio committee in Parliament, because we're an independent arm of government. Nothing stops us from actually conducting our own investigation to make an informed view about what's happening and where the weaknesses are and how that could be addressed in the medium to long term.
Stand by, don't go anywhere, Ngabayomzi. We'll come back to you in a moment. Let me just recap, in case you're just joining us. You're watching SABC News. This is the week ahead on SABC News. The reason you are seeing us doing things rather differently from how we normally do things on a Sunday afternoon is the extraordinary turn of events, I call it. Over 2.5 hours ago, at about 11 a.m., the Provincial Commissioner of Police in KwaZulu-Natal, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, hosting a media briefing, in which briefing he made serious allegations. And they hit you like a volley, those allegations. I was trying to take notes, Mzwandile Mbeche joining me in studio. I couldn't keep up in terms of what I was hearing. Let me just read one of the allegations. Among the people that are being mentioned by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is one Vusumuzi Ket Matlala. And among some of what was said about him in particular, and I'm reading from the Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's statement here, he says, further analysis of the chats indicates that Vusumuzi Ket Matlala is financially supporting the Minister of Police and Mr. Brown Mogotzi's political endeavors. This is supported by the evidence of conversations and the proof of payments of guests for the January 8th traveling costs and the gala dinner table in Cape Town. And therefore, in that, he includes a screenshot of the notification proof of payment for that gala dinner. Is it what? 11,000 rand, I think it is.
This Matlala,
111,000
we had the police
rand
commissioner saying that there were weapons linked to crimes against some artists, which he wasn't going to mention. And I think Tebogo Tobejane is the curvaceous girl, right? The one who apparently runs a strip club. No? And at some point, she got shot at. Correct? Yeah. Man. Okay, the images won't be large over here. We came here for the hips. Is this a BBL? But and there's also J. Israel here. As I search this, there's a dude by the name of J. Israel here, who was a pastor. What is he doing with Tebogo Tobejane? This is some scented cake that he was chowing. But what we are here for is the wife of this guy is linked to a hit on that chick there. So was this gangster here chowing Tebogo, and his wife then decided to go after her? Should we keep... Okay, let's keep listening to the briefing as it goes. For those who want to watch along and find out these stories parallel and the links that are being brought for us to listen to, you can read with me. So let's keep going. Thank you, babe.
Forces outside of government, business networks supporting political activities, general aid, transportation costs, and the like.
There is something very interesting here. When Ramaphosa ascended to the presidency, we talked about the new throne. Maybe actually what Omawai comes from with a different definition of a new throne. Because what we have seen is the direct opposite of what we expected. We don't see the we are thinking further down the home. I don't know if we'll get out of it anytime soon. The reality here is that we are talking about what we refer to as allocation, depending on how we define it. But most of us that's what for example, the question is not, but yes,
What is good and good is great. Let us thank you for the phone. Just in pray, amen.
Can be compromised if you don't mention. Unfortunately, the president compromised position was for dynasty. But why the compromised position that he is the position where and then if it was might be for that, you want to mention that when I mention that never be up the I asked the question at the time. That what caused the organization and that what caused the country. And I can go to the next discussion. And we might have organization and then other ministers.
And so that's part of what we've heard. Is proof of payment for that gala dinner. Is it what? 11,000 rand, I think it is. Yes. No, 111,000 rand is that proof of payment. So that's part of what we've heard. I'll come back to you in a moment, Mzwai, but let me hear from Professor Bheki Mngomezulu. Prof, again, I was saying earlier on, this sounds like allegations we've heard before. Didn't we hear?
Sorry, as members of parliament. So even on those that I'm saying that I don't the president because even if he wants to act, the question is why would he act now if he has not acted in the past? So those are the questions that the public will be asking.
Mzwai, let me give you a moment here before I go to the Ogakhas of Public Interest South Africa, who's also now joined the conversation. How complicated, Prof. Mngomezulu alludes to it somewhat, how complicated does this make the picture for President Ramaphosa, especially in the context of the government of national unity? Even before he went to Brazil, there were already those ructions that seemed to escalate around the dismissal of Andrew Whitfield, and then the DA pointing out and saying that, well, you are dealing with a whole host of ministers who are either rogue or suspect at the very least. Add to that now the allegations being made to another minister, and that now he has to factor into the equation whatever response he may want to give.
I think as soon as the person comes back, obviously need clarity from those concerned, but before he comes back. And I think people mentioned, particularly the minister in this instance, must be able to then come out on the public platform and explain some of what is being said about him. And then so we get to understand. Remember, now it's one side of Mkhwanazi. So let's get to hear the side, and then we are able to then...
But here's the difficult thing, Mzwai, if I can just jump in quickly. Yeah. The difficulty is we know how the processes work. President Ramaphosa is likely to say,
this one,
not trying to read his mind. Write me a report, Minister Mchunu, and tell me your side of the story. And that takes a while. And the sense of impatience grows that your processes take too long. Can he afford to follow the normal procedure that he followed with Nhlanha, for example, that he followed with Andrew Whitfield, for example?
I think that's why it's important as well from the side of the ministry to put its side so that we understand what exactly is happening. So once the president then embarks on those processes, as the public, we are better informed as to exactly, we understand why the president doing this. So I expect perhaps in the next day or two, the police ministry to be able to then put its side of the story, and then perhaps even the national commissioner to amplify some of these issues, because immediately Mkhwanazi had spoken, General Spear came and rubbished many of what Mkhwanazi said. So that is why it's important that we get to understand the full picture. Then we can say to the president, this is what's happening, what's your next move?
All right, let me go to Ongama Mtimka. Ongama, just another take from your side. The process is unfolding to go forward. A consistent theme that I've heard this afternoon, and we've really had to clear the decks in terms of everything else that we had planned, and this is the only story that we have really covered this afternoon, and for a good reason. Among the themes that I've heard is a call for a parliamentary inquiry. That's certainly what came through from many political parties reacting, and then also we've been hearing talk about a process outside of parliament itself, as I see Tebo Khokhas also joining. But just talk to those elements, Ongama, the importance of getting to grips with a proper and thorough investigation inside and outside of parliament.
Tula's leadership has got sometimes to act very boldly and in unusual ways. One, this is a matter of national security, so you're not dealing with a minister of education who's lied, or a minister a deputy minister who takes a trip. These are allegations about people stymieing investigations of senior politicians or politicians who are representative of the people of South Africa who have been killed. And the allegations are that people have acted in bad faith to stymie those. I don't know how we can talk about how there's a need for parliamentary investigations, this, that, and the other. No, this is a national security issue, and there's enough prima facie evidence. In fact, I wanted to come in when MP Kwangwa was talking to say, hopefully, if there's going to be such processes, you have precautionary suspensions immediately. I mean, you can't take something over which the life of a nation depends and subject it to mediocre processes that show no leadership whatsoever, or a significant recognition of the special and in fact exceptional circumstances under which we are. We are at a war, as it has been pointed out. There are two sides here. There seems to be a side. In fact, I'm saying seems because it's very clear. I mean, General Mkhwanazi has had a history of fighting and passionately against crime in the country. And I think that sometimes we must take these principles of liberal democratic principles that we love so much. Sometimes they have to fall and be a subject to effective leadership of how you deal with the crisis.
Let me bring you back into this conversation. Talk to me about the call for a parliamentary inquiry. I imagine that is meant to be more systemic and sort of fix and bring in a fix that's more long-term and more sustainable. But are there actions that should happen in the immediate, and especially in the context of the varying views within the government of national unity that we saw recently when Andrew Whitfield was dismissed from the executive, as well as the reaction of the Democratic Alliance, which you are not aligned with. Does this change your mind within the government of national unity about whether this needs to be approached differently in the manner that Ongama Mtimka is suggesting?
It's quite correct. These are very weighty allegations. You can't wait for long investigations to take place when you're dealing with issues of national security. That's why I said we're hoping or calling on the minister to do us a favor. He can brief us fine, but step aside and allow due process to follow the investigation to unfold. If he doesn't do that, the president will have to act, probably giving a precautionary suspension so that the investigation can be able to unfold. I mean, the parliamentary process is likely to be very long. As you said, it can be a multifaceted approach where the president will do a preliminary investigation to test the veracity of his allegations. I mean, General Mkhwanazi also has the evidence, they've done the investigation, they know what they're talking about. So that process can't really take long to check the allegations. But the parliamentary process would be to, precisely what you said, address the specific issues that allowed this process to unfold, allowed the frustration, the undermining of certain institutions that were trying to investigate, the political interference. So that process might take long. And I do not even think that such a process would be adequately addressed in a portfolio committee. We've always done well when we would have an ad hoc committee that would deal with inquiries and look at issues from a multi-faceted point of view. That's what we require. But the president has to act immediately. Because failure to do so then creates this uncertainty in the question of SAPS undermines national security, and we can't allow that to happen. And when we deal with other GNU issues, it's about whether a person went on a trip, it's not a real security issue, but it's an issue about authority and accountability within the GNU itself. This is a different matter altogether. It requires the president to act almost immediately.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we can hear from Tebogo Khas at this particular point, where we're just trying to align one or two issues with him. We'll come back to him in a moment. Chad Thomas, let me bring you back into the conversation. The point has been made, and analysis and I suppose critique has been made, that there's a tendency in South Africa to want people to be wholly good or wholly bad, demons and angels. Kind of narrative. Part of what I noticed in this story is that it involves now Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, who has enjoyed a fair amount of public support, but also now Shadrack Sibiya, someone that over the last few years, the narrative was that he certainly was a bulwark against some of the capture and corruption of processes within the police. Help us make sense of it. How tricky does this make the picture, that you sit here with someone that many people have had faith in now being accused in the manner that is happening at the moment?
Yeah, it's a very difficult position that we as a country find ourselves in, especially those of us that are involved in law enforcement as well as journalists. We tend to look to people in leadership as being appointed based on merit, based on the fact that they're in that position because they were vocationally inclined to wanting to make a difference, especially in South Africa, where we have this massive war on crime, where crime has seemed to have the upper hand the last couple of years. For myself, when Senso Mchunu became minister, I thought it was a breath of fresh air. He seemed to come across as very victim-centric. He even called for the very first anti-crime summit, bringing together all the role players. So I hope that a lot of what's been said today can be explained. But one thing that needs to be made very clear is that the police are at war with itself. And like you mentioned, you spoke about you can either be an angel or you can be a demon. Within crime intelligence, it's neither. It's a grey area in which they walk. They have to be aligned to the police, but at the same time, they have to infiltrate crime syndicates. And it opens up the door for people to be compromised. And it's time that this reckoning took place. We as the people of South Africa deserve accountability and transparency from our police leaders. And I just hope that the president does make the right decisions going forward, and that what happened today opens the doors to thorough discussion and cleansing of a department that seems to be broken at this point in time.
Let me go to Professor Bheki Mngomezulu. Prof, in terms of how this is dealt with organizationally within the SAPS, how difficult will it be? We know we're dealing with a provincial commissioner who, as I say, I don't have a poll to pull up and show you the numbers, but you can get a sense of the kind of popularity that he enjoys. To the extent that there are issues of protocols, policing organization protocols that he may be suspected of having breached, how difficult would it be to raise that issue? Or will the focus now solely be on, we get that he didn't follow the protocol, but the bigger issue are the allegations that he's brought forward in that unorthodox manner?
That's a very critical question. If someone is to be killed, and then you saw the person being killed, the question then would be, do you first report the matter to the police before you tell the family? That is something that will be debatable. In this case, there are quite a number of statements that General Mkhwanazi made, and they are concerning, as my other panelists have been saying, they are concerning because they talk to the security of the country, and therefore urgent action needs to be taken. Then if there are any internal processes within SAPS that need to be followed, then let those processes be followed. You can have parallel processes because they are the agents of the matter. In fact, when Mkhwanazi was talking, I was asking myself the question, if indeed, if it were to be found to be correct that Minister Mkhwanazi denied knowing someone when he actually knew him, would it be because he did that deliberately, or would it be because they brought in someone who has no background in policing? And then if the latter is the case, then it means that the point that some of us have been making in the past, that you must use meritocracy when you appoint people into positions of power, more especially in critical departments like this one. Because then if citizens of Tono acted out of ignorance of how the police class operates, you would not blame him as an individual because he didn't appoint himself. They will be asking the president what informed the president to appoint him in that position in the first place. I asked a similar question when the president appointed Ndi Mutera to be the minister of defense and then make General Ometa a deputy. I asked the question, was there any reason behind that? I really went on to say that if I had it my way, I would have not appointed General Ometa to deputize Mkhwanazi with no idea.
All right.
10 minutes later, she should not be wearing boots. So that is the situation of it.
All right, let's leave it there with you this afternoon. That's Professor Bheki Mngomezulu. And at this point, we can also release Nabayomzi Kwankwa, the Deputy President of the United Democratic Movement. We still have the other panelists also joining us. Ongama Mtimka, political analyst, and we're trying to line up the audio issues with Tebogo Khas from Public Interest South Africa, also lining up more political reaction for you, as well as Mzwandile Mbeje in studio.
I'm sitting on a bucket here, man. I sit on this bucket that is supplement here, man. So, that's the story. It's breaking. Yeah? Wow. Wow, we were. Oh, there's 7 people in the chat. Thank you very much for joining me. Hope you click like. Hope you share. Hope you subscribe. Let me hop off the stream right back. And I'll be right back to look at some more stories. I want to drop this one right quick. So let's link up again as soon as I come back onto the stream. Thank you very much. Let me drop this one so that the drops can really start. Just now, I'll be back. Thank you.